Okay, fine.
Joining me now for this discussion is legal analyst Mpumelelo Zikalala. Mr. Zikalala, thank you so much for your time and allowing us to have an analysis on this issue. So lawyer accused number 3 is now going to be representing accused number 1, that's Mr. Charles Mnisi. Was this the most likely of all 4 legal representatives to take on accused number 1, or is it just immaterial?
Good afternoon to you, so good afternoon to your viewers. I think at this stage it's immaterial. It's up to the person or the accused in this case to say who amongst the individuals that are available that can be able to represent me better. Probably he has been able to see how they go in court, how they're able to conduct the proceedings. And I think he must have felt comfortable that Advocate Mnisi is the appropriate individual to take it forward. So at the end of the day, it was simply a client saying that I want this particular service provider to service me. I know that if I'm represented by this person, the defense that I want to put through to this court is going to be understood and it's going to be in a manner in which I think it will be able to exonerate. So I think it's those instances in which Advocate Mnisi was chosen.
And of course, choosing a defense lawyer who is currently on the case is quite beneficial for the court and for the case in terms of delays that could have happened if someone external was then brought on.
Definitely. If someone external has been brought on, they would have had to read the case from the inception up until now. That would have maybe wanted to bring or to call back other witnesses to say, I wasn't there to do cross-examination, so let me start afresh. So certainly would have dragged the case along. But I think in this case, certain accolades must be given to the judge to say he is really playing his role in terms of protecting and promoting the interest of all the parties that are in court. Looking after the prosecution to say, I want to enable to be able to prosecute these individuals in a proper manner. Also looking at the accused to say to you, there are certain rights that are put to you. I want to make sure that I'm able to protect your rights. In this case, a variety of section 35(3)(d) of saying that the trial must be able to start and end within a reasonable amount of time. So it was elimination of any disturbances which was observed by the court. And there is 33(3)(f) that says a person has a right to legal representation, which in this case, with the introduction of Advocate Mnisi, that's exactly what they were trying to fulfill, to say it is your right to have someone who better understand the proceedings, the procedures and the rules and the certain legislation which is applicable. Let the particular individual be able to assist you. So the judge was simply saying, I want to make sure that the trial is able to start and end within the shortest amount of time, and I'm going to move forward and be proactive and make sure that the issue of legal representation is done earlier on so that we're able to proceed with this matter.
So before the announcement of Advocate Charles Mnisi as the defense attorney for accused number 1, there were discussions of a possibility of a conflict of interest, and maybe just from a legal standpoint, if you could just explain to us in what situations would a conflict of interest arise, and then does this mean him then taking on accused number 1 means that there isn't any conflict of interest that could exist between accused number 1 and accused number 3 in terms of their statements or their placement within the case?
Well, at this time, it's only the defense legal reps that will have a bit of a preview as to the potential conflict of interest that would arise, because they are the ones that are carrying the instructions, they are the ones that have been briefed by their various clients to say, this is my version of events. And if you're in your version of events, you then sort of indirectly or directly implicate the one of the other co-accused. That means that you as a legal representative will have to ask yourself this question: who am I going to represent and who am I going to throw under the bus between the two? If you have to answer that particular question, then definitely there's a conflict which is there. And you need someone who's going to be independent, will be able to apply their mind independently to the facts and to the case, and be able to represent their client in a proper manner. So I think in this case, after they've confirmed that they've sat together, they've had the brief and a detailed consultation, Advocate Mnisi knows very well as to what his current client has said to him, and he knows very well the defense that accused number 1 is going to say to him. And if there's no conflict between the two, then he can continue. But if there is conflict, I think it would have been identified by now, and they would have said, please go and look for somebody else, because I will not be able to do a proper job of defending your legal interest if at one point or another I may implicate you either directly or indirectly.
Are we likely to see a close of this case by the end of 2025?
Yes, we are likely. And even my prediction is maybe by June of 2025, we would have seen an end to this case. with a few conditions. One is that there must be no other delays which are going to be there, no other recording of witnesses that have been called earlier. And if you estimate that maybe one accused will stay in the court for plus minus a week, then within maybe a month and a half, we should be done and dusted, and then you'll be able to hear the closing arguments from the parties and the various representation that will come from the liquor reps. So it is highly likely that the match will be done and dusted within 2025 or the earlier part of 2025 if there are no other delays that are going to crop up.
So maybe just before I let you go, maybe we could get some analysis from you, Mr. Zikalala, with regards to the Information Regulator's urgent application with the Pretoria High Court. I mean, we heard arguments in the High Court yesterday from all parties involved, and today Judge Tolme gave a ruling to strike the case off the roll, saying that there was no urgency as indicated by the regulator. Was this expected?
I would say in certain parts, yes, but we must be able to distinguish between the two. The fact that the matter struck off the roll for the lack of urgency does not mean that there are no merits in what the Information Regulator is bringing about or wants the court to adjudicate on. Simply what the court is doing is saying to the Information Regulator, you want to jump the queue, you want your matter to be resolved as quickly as possible, and yet you haven't provided any indications that your matter is urgent. There are other alternative dispute resolution forums that are there. There's intergovernmental dispute resolution forums that are also there. You have not utilized that. But most importantly, you knew about your cause of concern way before the Matric results are going to be issued, and then you wait up until the last minute before you approach the court. The most important question we even had yesterday, what have you done from the date in which your cause of concern existed up until you come to court now? If you are not able to answer those, then the court is going to say, we are not going to let you go over the first hurdle of agency. We are going to strike the matter off the road, go and enroll it in a proper manner, give all the parties enough time for them to be able to answer, and only then we can come back. So we may see if the Information Regulator is going to be proactive enough when they start this year, that maybe by December of 2025, we may have a different way of doing things, a different maybe mechanisms of making sure they get the consent of the Matric participants to say, yes, the results can then be issued. Another flaw that I also noticed, which was also highlighted by the court, was to say, well, we are claiming to be representing individuals, and yet none of those individuals are here in this court to say that my rights are going to be infringed, but that I do not want the result to be issued in a public manner. So which interest are you exactly representing? Who's going to suffer the prejudice? Is it the number of students, Matric students that are there, or is it you that haven't done your job, for a lack of a better word, for the better part of 2024?
All right, Mpumelelo Zikalala, thank you so much for your time and giving us reaction to both those leading stories today. That is the legal representative, Mpumelelo Zikalala.